I want to make sure that you all realize that we were able to get one of the best speakers on leadership around, and we had him fly in from New York for this occasion. So we don't want you to think that, we want you to know that we try to get the best people to come and talk to you. You see the gentleman's bio in the program, Naftali Hoff. He also provided us with permission to publish one of his articles in one of our prior newsletters this year, the HR Today newsletter. He started off as a classroom teacher. Well, that wasn't how he started life, but this is how he started off in his professional career. Classroom teacher, administration. He's an expert on leadership. He travels all around the world providing leadership seminars. And without any further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Naftali Hoff to come and speak to you.
Thank you, Hermes, and good morning, everyone. It is really a pleasure to be here. I must tell you, the environment in the room is obviously one of great camaraderie and great friendship, and you can sense that. Sometimes you walk into a place and you kind of feel you're just amongst friends. And I think that the leadership of this program must get the credit, or at least a lot of the credit, for creating that. And so I wanted to thank Hermes and Rebecca and Barbara and anyone involved in allowing me to be here. The fact that Hermes and I share Bronxonian roots only makes that connection deeper. I just found that out this morning. But either way, Mosholu Parkway just for a couple of years and then on to a small island called Manhattan. But it's really great to be here. I'm delighted to spend time in Orlando in a place that doesn't have big ears and big white gloves. And it's nice to see that there's something other to the town. It's a beautiful place. And I hope that the next time, if I demonstrate my speaking capacity today, you'll dial up the sunshine for me. Because it was really part of my negotiation. But nonetheless, I'm delighted to be here. And I thank you really for the opportunity. And I want to give you all a lot of credit. I understand that you committed one day a month for an entire year, which is a significant commitment. And it sounds like many of you committed even more time in different ways. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of persistence. You kind of have to have a mindset of where you're going and a persistence and a willingness to get there. You know, sometimes in life we have this flash of the pan excitement, and you see this program and it seems so wonderful. And in the first session you get great turnout and everybody's so excited. But over time it starts to peter out. And the fact that you made that commitment and you're still here and you're celebrating that today is a testament to everything that you're about. And I think a testament to everything that the district is about. So congratulations to all of you. Now, I was actually in a similar situation about 12 years ago. I had an opportunity. I'd already completed a master's program in New York. I'd moved to Chicago. I'd met my wife and we relocated there. And there was an opportunity where I could pursue a second master's program. It was a concentrated program, took place primarily in the summers. I didn't really need it necessarily, but it was something that I saw as an opportunity that would enhance my skill set even further. And the individuals who participated, it was a principals group. It was for a master's degree in supervision and administration. Not everybody in the room became a principal, at least not right away. But everybody grew. Everybody learned new skills. And more importantly, perhaps than anything else, you developed a camaraderie with others. And one thing that I want to share with you from that program, as well as with a subsequent program that I was given the opportunity to participate in, one of the greatest benefits, I don't know how much it's emphasized, but certainly something that I encourage all of you to think about and to make sure you don't lose sight of and don't lose hold of, is the connections, the collaborations, and the relationships that you've developed. Whether that's by keeping in touch through email, I don't know how many of you see each other on a regular basis. Perhaps you can create coffee clubs or opportunities to get together for a morning here or there, to just brainstorm, to talk about ideas, to touch base with one another, to just see how am I doing, how are you doing, how are we progressing? Because that's a tremendous motivator. It gives you new ideas, of course. You can unburden a little bit. You can share your whatever challenges you might be dealing with, etc. But it really gives you an opportunity to be inspired by each other. And so the fact that you've had opportunity to work with each other, to learn with each other for an entire year, don't lose that. Keep that going. I encourage you very much to find ways by which to maintain those relationships. Perhaps there's already something in place, I'm not sure, but in case it isn't, whatever you can do to initiate that would be something that I think would be extremely, extremely valuable. And so I want to just put that out there. Now, there's one other group I believe in the room that deserves credit, and there are supervisors. Is that correct? Supervisors in the room, individuals who are not actual graduates, but people who allowed the graduates to participate, who made that happen. And so I'd like to just take a moment for those who are in that category to be recognized for the fact that they made it a little bit harder for themselves, had a little more work to do, at least one day a month, and had to deal with the fact that they had employees who were focused on some other things. They recognize certainly the value in leadership, and they deserve credit as well for everybody being here today. Now, today happens to be the first day of Hanukkah. There are a lot of subplots to it. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I want to mention one thing. In the beginning of the story, so to speak, the military struggle that occurred in the land of Israel many years ago, the individuals who participated, who rose against a very powerful force, were people who did not have leadership experience per se. They were people from the rank and file, so to speak, people who lived amongst the community. But when they saw a situation, they recognized that there was a need. They were able to step up. And when they stepped up, they were able to motivate a whole big group of other people to do so with them. And it changed really the course of history in many, many ways, well beyond the scope of our talk today. But the idea that everybody here realizes that you just can't ever have this leadership void. You always need to have the next person up, right, ready to go. And the fact that you prepared yourself in that way is so powerful. You know, I remember when I was engaged to my wife, my brother and some other members of my family were with me, and my wife's grandmother was there as well. So she turns to my brother and she says, "Oh, so what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm studying to be a rabbi." And she says, "Just what the world needs, another rabbi." So that comment always caught me. He was very nice about it, but the comment always caught me a little bit off because, oftentimes in our little circles, we think of my son the doctor, my son the lawyer, my son the accountant, and some of us, my son the rabbi. But the reality is, whether it's in rabbinics or clerical work or leadership in other types of ways, in the office, in the business place, etc., there's always a need for leaders. There's always a place. And I want to be very clear also, leadership is a frame of mind. Yes, of course, oftentimes it goes with a position, and sometimes the position demands the leadership. But oftentimes leadership is a choice we make. It's an attitude we possess. It's a matter of identifying what's out there, where are the needs, and how can I, if not address the needs directly, at least bring the needs to the table. Have a conversation about it. Maybe make a recommendation, a suggestion. It's about moving the organization forward. It's about moving ourselves forward. There's personal leadership, and then there's collective leadership. And I think that's a lesson I'm sure you've all learned over the last 12 months. The idea that leadership is not narrowly defined. It's an expansive concept. And the more of us that think as leaders, the more of us that act as leaders, the more of us that understand that we can be a difference maker for ourselves and for those around us, the better our environment's going to be. And what's another thing that I must tell you is beautiful, and I don't know if I could say that, but what Hermes mentioned earlier today should be repeated. The fact that this program was designed certainly with the district in mind. In other words, certainly there are hopes and aspirations for the coordinators of the program that you will take that next step within the district and become leaders here in Orange County Public Schools. But the fact that they understand that you may find your calling elsewhere, and you may choose to ultimately build your leadership dream in another environment, and they're supportive of that, and they encourage that. To me, that's incredible. And I'd like to, again, thank them for not only the opportunity to be here, but to really be inspired by that vision and inspired by that mission. You know, John Maxwell tells a story. He's one of the great leadership gurus, if you will, today. And he talks about a guy who's walking down the street, and he sees some builders on the road, and they have some bricks, and they're putting the bricks together. And he says, "So what are you doing?" And the guys say, "We're laying bricks." Goes a little bit further down the road, same group, same bricks, same scenario. "What are you doing?" "We're building a wall." And he continues down the road. And he says to the next group of people, "Well, what are you doing?" We're building an edifice." And finally, he gets to the last group and he says to them, "Gentlemen, what are you doing?" "We're building a cathedral." And it's all the same actions. It's all the same activity, but it's about the mindset. And so the leaders of this program are building a cathedral in each and every one of you. They recognize the inner leader within you. They understand the fact that they put it out there. You know the old adage, if you build it, they will come. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but they built it, and you did come, and you came, and you grew as leaders. And so I hope that that inspiration, that message, that each of you are a cathedral, that each of you are a world to yourself, each of you have great potential, and hopefully you will see the actualization, the realization of that potential as we move forward. Now, I got to tell you, Ron, are you still here? Yes, hi. I have to disagree with you a little bit. I hope you don't mind, right? It's not over. Sorry to say that. It's over, but it's not over. And when I say that, I mean that a leader is a lifelong process. Learning is a lifelong process. You graduated a class, but I will tell you that real leadership learning, as you will come to see, is experiential in so many ways. We're going to talk more about how to position yourself for leadership success, certainly, but that's something that we want to keep in mind as we move forward, because you've graduated. So now what, right? Does it all just stop right there? Do I expect that everything's going to line up for me, all the opportunities, all of that? Clearly, that's not usually what happens for most folks. They get their credentials, but now they have to keep going. So what I would like to talk with you about for the rest of my time this morning is some strategies, things that you can do to position yourself for success, both in terms of getting that next position that you seek whenever the time is right for that, as well as growing into that position and being the very best candidate for it, as well as the best leader within it as time moves forward. So the first thing I want you to think about is, how can I create a vision for myself? Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the program. I did have the opportunity to review the various classes, and it was very comprehensive. And I hope you had a chance to talk about vision. I hope you had a chance to understand that leaders, one of the great qualities, and really what distinguishes leaders from managers, right? I think it's Stephen Covey that says, managers are about putting the ladder to the wall, but leaders are the ones to figure out which wall to lean it on, or something along those lines. It includes the concept of vision, understanding where I'm going. And I think that vision starts with us as individuals. So if you think about it, and you say to yourself, well, what kind of position do I want to occupy? And what kind of individuals do I want to work with? What type of culture do I want to be in? And what kind of skills do I feel that I need in order to make sure that when I get into that position, I could really thrive? You know, Stephen Covey talks about the idea of beginning with the end in mind. And he has this imagery. You might have read the book, The 7 Habits. It's one of the greatest books I've ever read, certainly on leadership and on living a fulfilled life and getting along effectively with others. And he talks about, it's somewhat of a somber metaphor, but he talks about a person at their, at the eulogy, at their what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know why it's not coming to mind. They've died. And Sorry. It must be jet lag or something. Funeral. Thank you very much. At their funeral. Well, I guess the concept is so foreign to me. I really hope I never get there. Wow. Okay. So you're at your funeral and everybody's gathered around and they're starting to speak. Right? What do you want them to say about you? And that idea, I know that that's, again, it's a somber context, but it's a very powerful context. And it really, what it does is it sort of distills at the end of the day all the pettiness of life. And it puts it for what it is. What do you want on your gravestone? What do you want people to be able to say at the end of your life? These were his or her accomplishments. These were his or her talents. These were his or her characteristics and qualities. This is what allowed him or her to make a difference in my life and in the life of so many others. So when we begin our leadership journey, don't think about funerals, but do think about where you will be at the end. Think about your final graduation ceremony. Think about your retirement party. Think about the opportunity when everybody in your business, when everybody in your organization, where everybody in your life is gathering around to celebrate your career. What do you want them to say about you as a person and as a leader? And what kind of people do you want to be surrounded by? And what type of organization should they represent? And the more that you can develop that vision, the closer you will be, I think, to getting to what's really meaningful to you. Because sometimes when you go out there, you're so eager to land that first opportunity, it may not necessarily be aligned with those values. And then you have to make a decision. It doesn't mean it's necessarily the wrong opportunity for you, but you have to think about it and decide, does this position me really for the next step that I want to have for myself? And to the degree that I need to grow, to the degree that I need to become a better person, a better leader, a better problem solver, what can I already do today that's going to put me on the path to getting there? And of course, there's no replacement for experience. A lot of that just comes with being on the job. But the more that you can do, and I would encourage you to read biographies. I would encourage you to go online, find stories of people, the rags to riches, the individuals who probably held positions very similar to what everybody in this room in one form or another hold or held previously. Positions that don't seem to necessarily speak to the great leadership out there. But at the same time, there are so many individuals, we'll mention a couple of them a little bit later, that followed that exact path and are great leaders today. Brian Tracy, also a great leader, talks about all successful people, men and women, are big dreamers. They imagine what their future can be, ideal in every respect. And then they work every day towards that distant vision, that goal, or that purpose. So that's what having a vision and being vision-oriented is all about. Now, once you have your dream, once you know what you're thinking about, I would encourage you to start to set some SMART goals. I don't know if you encounter that while you were learning, but SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And there's some other versions of that. But basically, it takes the vision and makes it practical. It puts you into gear. There's a story of an individual who was trying to save Jews in the Holocaust. And these individuals were living in, I think, Hungary or some other countries towards the end of the war. The Nazis at that point were desperate. They were looking for more funding. They wanted more trucks and more other things to support their war effort. And so they were willing to negotiate. And for every $100, a person was able to be saved. So this person was going around New York City and other areas trying to collect money in order to ensure that as many lives that could be saved as possible would in fact be saved. So he goes into this cleaner's shop and he says to the owner, listen, for every $100, now $100 70 years ago was a lot more money, but nonetheless, for every $100 that I save, it's another life. Think about the potential over here. Won't you make a contribution? So the man says, you know what? Look over there. You see the cash register? Go to the register, open it up, and take whatever you want. So the guy said, that's very beautiful. I really appreciate your generosity. But I got to tell you, I got a question for you. The register is there. I'm here. You're there. We're both equidistant from the register. This is your store. Why are you sending me to your register? It doesn't make any sense. And the man said something that's very powerful that I think all of us can learn from. He said, because if I have to go to the register, in the 20 steps that it will take for me to get from here to there, some of my enthusiasm might wane, and I may make a lesser contribution. And so therefore, I want you to go because your enthusiasm will not wane. Take as much as you need. And that, I think, is a very powerful lesson for all of us. As we walk out from here today, we want to have that vision. It might take a little time to develop. You don't have to do it by 10 o'clock. But you definitely do want to develop the vision, and then you want to act upon the vision. And whatever those next steps might be for you, of course, they have to be specific. You have to be able to measure them, and they have to be achievable. And you want to attach a time frame to it so that you can hold yourself accountable. And when I mentioned before that you should be developing strong ongoing networks with each other, that's a great use of that network where you can hold each other accountable. What goals have you set? And what goals have you set? And when can we get together to revisit to determine if we're on the right path or not? So that's the next thing that I would encourage you to do. Develop the vision, set the goals that you need in order to get there. Will Rogers once wrote, even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Think about that one for a second. So don't just sit there, do something. Now, I would like to encourage you, not just because of the sponsors of the program, because I oftentimes think that the grass is greener on the other side. But I would encourage you to look for internal opportunities first. And I'll tell you a little parable that is told in the Jewish tradition that might be useful to you. There's a story of a man named Jacob, not the biblical Jacob, but somebody, let's say about 200 years ago, very, very poor, lives somewhere in Europe, has a very small home, big family, can barely feed them, and he's suffering every day. He doesn't know how he's going to make ends meet. And so he has this dream. And the dream says that under the king's palace, under the king's castle, is a huge fortune. Go to the palace to such and such a spot and dig over there, and you will find a treasure. You'll be set for life. And he blows it off. He says, what is it? This is ridiculous. I'm not going to go over to the king's palace and start digging. And he leaves it alone. And he has the dream again. And he has it a third time. At this point, he thinks it's serious. So he tells his wife, honey, I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. I'm going off to the king's castle. I'm going to bring a couple of shovels with me. Hopefully, I'll be back with good news. And he sets off. And he goes to the castle, and he gets there, and he starts digging underneath, near the foundation where he was told that the treasure was. And one of the guards comes running up to him. Halt! What are you doing here? You can't be digging around the king's castle. And so Jacob felt he had no choice, and he starts to tell the soldier what exactly prompted him to come here and to start digging. And the soldier says, oh, that is so funny, because just the other night I had a dream that in the backyard of some Jew named Jacob was a treasure. And, I dismissed it. I think the whole thing is crazy. I'm going to go find some Jew named Jacob and start digging under his tree in the backyard. There's no way. And Jacob smiles and he says, thank you very much, takes his shovels, and he heads home. And lo and behold, he goes digging in the backyard, and there is his treasure. Now, I don't know if this story ever happened, but the idea behind it is that so often we think that our opportunities and our future are somewhere out there. And they very well may be. It's a great big world. And the likelihood, the statistics say that there are more possibilities somewhere beyond than they are in my proverbial few feet around me. But always see what the opportunities are where you are. If nothing else, you can start to use your current work environment to help develop your leadership skills. So start to be a difference maker at work. Get involved in projects, volunteer wherever you can, if appropriate, if it fits your skill set and you have the time for it, and where you see opportunity for constructive suggestions. All these kinds of things already start to get you to think like a leader. As we'll see, being a leader, and we talked about this already, is about being, possessing a different mindset. So I mentioned to you before, there's some individuals who started really at the bottom rung of the corporate ladder, and they grew to some great things. Number one, we have a woman by the name of Mary Barra, who now is the CEO of GM. She started at the age of 18 at the very bottom of the corporate ladder. She enrolled in an engineering college sponsored by General Motors. She spent half a year there inspecting parts at a Pontiac plant, worked her way up the ladder with smart decision-making and a willingness to give the company everything she had. And in 2013, all of that dedication was rewarded with her being the very first female to ever occupy the position of CEO of General Motors. And there's somebody you probably know even more, whether you're Republican or Democrat, Carly Fiorina, who's running for Republican candidacy for president. She also started as a secretary within Hewlett-Packard, and eventually she also rose to the position of CEO. And so we see that if you have a dream, if you have the right skills, if you pursue your goals and you're tenacious, and you put yourself out there in a way that people can recognize the wonderful gifts that you possess, you can grow into the very highest positions that this country and really the world have to offer. Now, if you have other skills, you might be a great writer. I would encourage you to get on some blogs and to guest post, maybe even create your own website and have a blog on your website or start a WordPress blog. I think those could be extremely powerful. Not only do they create opportunities to engage with each other, it forces you to learn. One of the greatest things they say about workplaces today is that they should be learning environments. It should always be in a situation where people are learning more and more. But the reality is the best workplaces are teaching environments, meaning to say it's not good enough that we bring speakers in. That's wonderful. but that we have the individuals within our institution organization. They become the teachers. They have responsibility to learn. They have responsibility to give that learning over to others. That's what really creates that next level of learning within an organization. So if there are opportunities either within or for you to perhaps become a speaker somewhere, go to, I don't know, a Rotary Club, go somewhere where you can make some type of contribution through your thoughts, through your ideas, through your values, you're going to find that it helps you as well as helping those around you. Now, we have a gift today. It's called Web 2.0, and specifically, we can call it social media. Now, social media in the, here I am, notice me type of thing is not what I'm focusing on right now. There's this old adage that says if a tree falls in the forest and you didn't hear it, did it make a sound? You're something like that. So my joke is, if I went somewhere and I didn't post a selfie on Twitter, did it really happen? Right? That's just the way we are today. We can't go anywhere, right? Excuse me, guys, I'm just going to take one of myself right now. But we can't go anywhere today without taking a picture and posting it somewhere. So that's all fine and good. Nothing wrong with that. Whoever does it, keep doing it. It's fun. But at the same time, there are certain sites, LinkedIn in particular, that give us opportunity to engage with each other. There are groups on LinkedIn, all sorts of groups. For nonprofit leadership, it would be the ones in particular that I would encourage you to look at and see which groups should you consider, trying to get into, and then maybe contributing content, at least reading on a regular basis, being part of that. And the more that you are involved, the more you start to develop networks, the more you start to develop relationships. And oftentimes, we all know the adage, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Now, of course, it's also what you know, right? You can't hide that forever. But a lot of getting in the right place with the right people to show them actually what you know is based on who you know. So the more that you can do online, but even more powerfully if possible, in person. So if there are business networking opportunities in town, and I'm sure that there are, where you can get together with people and you can talk with each other and see what are your struggles, what are your challenges, right? I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. Maybe we can meet for coffee, whatever those are. When I transitioned from school leadership to the coaching work that I do now, I worked very hard on creating all of those structural components, developing a website and going online, having a social media presence, which I really didn't have much of before, and really starting to get to know people. And by doing that on a regular basis, all of a sudden people think of you when they have a position, when they have an opportunity, and even if it's a voluntary opportunity initially, right? Eventually those lead into paid engagements also. So I'd encourage you to think about all of that because those could be very helpful to you. Now, Gandhi once said, I suppose leadership at one time meant muscles, but today it means getting along with people. And so I would encourage you as you think about being a leader to think about your interactions with others. What do people typically think about you as a person and as a team member? John Maxwell says leadership is all about influence, nothing more and nothing less. So how can you develop these ideas? How can you share these ideas? And how can you influence people by your word and by your deed? And sometimes the greatest influencers are people that are not big talkers. Maybe it's through servant leadership, but they have a way by which to make sure that everybody around them feels validated and valued, and at the same time that they know the direction that we're going in and how to optimize those talents and skills in order to allow them to get there. Now, I have some bad news for everybody here, and that is that usually, being a leader means you have to work even harder. That's the truth. The buck's going to stop with you. And getting that mindset from the beginning, realizing that you're the one that opens up the shop in the morning, maybe not literally, and you're the one that closes it at night. You're the one who people will turn to when there are challenges, and they will, because that's just the way it is. That is part of leadership too. I would encourage you to embrace that. I note there are leaders who sometimes resent that, and you have to, of course, create the right boundaries and know how to be accessible at different times. But I would encourage you to realize that you're getting into something great, but with that comes with the territory, the idea to be responsible. So Mark Twain once said, do something every day. I think this is great advice for all of us. Do something every day that you don't want to do. This is the golden rule for acquiring the habit of doing your duty without pain. Now, exactly what that looks like, something that you don't want to do, I don't have a great example for you at the moment, but you get the idea. The point is, not everything about life and not everything about our job is all wonderful, glorious, and rosy. And some of the most successful people out there, whether that's Mark Cuban, whether that's Bill Gates, these are people that never took vacation when they were starting out. They had a vision, they had a dream, they worked extremely hard, but they got there. And now they probably could take as much vacation as they want. So that's one of the beauties. Okay? We talked about this before, but I'm going to mention it again. Keep learning. Don't stop. But first of all, you can't stop because the world around us keeps changing. Keeps changing. You can't possibly just say, well, back in 2015, I completed a course on leadership. Well, how is that relevant in 2016? I mean, that was so last year. I mean, my gosh, that was like 12 iPods ago. iPads or whatever it is, okay? I mean, what? That's right. So everything in the world is that way. Communication is that way. Relationships are that way. All different types of things that we engage in are constantly changing. And the constant of our world is change. And therefore, if you think about it, we all need to stay ahead of the curve. So whether that be, I don't know if the district necessarily, I don't know if they'd be open to it, of offering continued education, or whether that means you have to go out on your own and find it. All of those things are things to think about because at the end, no program, no matter how great it is, it could be with the most wonderful presenters in the world, no program is going to fully prepare you for your particular circumstance. It's no way in the world that it could happen, just can't. And so you're going to go into a unique situation. You're going to have to apply everything that you learned. You're going to bring your own personality to the table, and you're going to have dynamics of individuals that nobody could have predicted, and this is who you're dealing with. So you have to be able to continue to learn and to grow in order to make sure that you are meeting those needs. I would also encourage you, sometimes we think, I got my degree. I'm not really invested any longer in my current position. I'm thinking all about the future. That could be one of the biggest mistakes that we make. You don't want to be in a situation where your current supervisor, where others around you start to think that you're no longer invested the way that you were because you already have your mind elsewhere. The best thing you could do for yourself is to continue to do the best job in your current job every single day. Now, recognizing, of course, that sometimes you have to go out for a job interview, sometimes you have to be able to, work on your resume, whatever those might look like. The more you could do that on your own time, the better it's going to be. Because let everybody who's a referral be your very best referral. And by the way, most bosses, if they or people who are looking to fill positions, if they know what they're doing, they're not just going to use your referrals or your references. They're going to be looking to see who else do they know that knows you. And they want to get as round and wide because they know the people you put on your resume all are going to say glorious things about you, as well they probably should. But they want to find out the full picture. And so the more that everybody around you is thinking, wow, what a great person, consistent, continues to perform, outperform, all of that, that's going to help as well. Now, this one I'm not going to say because of what I do professionally, but I am going to say it because of what I used to do professionally. And I would encourage you to get a coach, or at least to think about getting a coach. A coach is somebody who is available to you, who you can confide in, who you can begin to brainstorm. We talked about before setting goals and things like this. When you transition into leadership positions, that could be one of the most difficult and loneliest times. It's a beautiful time, it's a great time, but at the same time, it can have those other feelings attached to it as well, because you're no longer just one of the team. Now, all of a sudden, you're on top of the totem pole, so to speak. And so therefore, people are looking at you differently and your responsibilities are different. And you want somebody that you could talk to. You want somebody that you could bounce ideas off of, someone who's going to hold you accountable. And if it's not a coach, let it at least be a mentor. Somebody who you feel could be that experience for you. And look out for those people. They may or may not exist within your organization. You may have to find them outside of the organization. But look out for such people. They're worth every penny. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Now, the last point that I wanted to make is that we all have to realize that as much as we're motivated today, and you should be, and I want to continue to stress, you guys did an awesome job, and you have every right to celebrate your day today. But the reality is that setbacks are inevitable. And we're going to have those moments where we feel to ourselves, am I really making the progress that I thought I was making, participating in the program, et cetera. So let me quote for you one of the great NFL coaches of the Green Bay Packers, Mr. Vince Lombardi. He once said, "The price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, and the determination that whether we win or lose, we've applied the best of ourselves." And so we need to know that that alone is a virtue and a value. Working hard alone is something we should be proud of. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is walking from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm." And invariably, we're going to have failures as well. Steve Jobs from Apple Computers. "I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance," right? Because you're going to have those days, so fight through it. Believe in yourself. Understand that there's a better day right around the corner, right? As little orphan Annie used to say, the sun will come out tomorrow, and that's what they tell me also. Of course, I came on the wrong day. That's a different conversation. I want to leave you with this because I think it's really so cute, but it's also very powerful. A reporter once asked a bank president, "Sir, what is the secret of your success?" 2 words, right decisions. And how do you make the right decisions? 1 word, experience. And how do you get experience? 2 words, wrong decisions. In summary, I present to you the words of British Columbia Premier Christy Clark. She said the following: "What differentiates successful people is their ability to spot their luck, pull it out of the air around them, and turn it into something through tenacity, hard work, persistence, through a deep sense of self-belief and confidence, through a willingness to fight for what they believe in and what they know that they can do, despite the fact that people all around them may be telling them that they have no chance of success. That is what differentiates the men and women who are honored, in her case, as business laureates, from those of us that aren't." And so to recap what we talked about, you've accomplished a tremendous thing, but the work is not done. Develop the vision of what you want to be, set goals to help you get there, build your network, establish the camaraderie, keep that relationship going, don't lose sight of it. It could be the most powerful, even maybe more than all of the skills you picked up along the way, is that peer support and that peer relationship that you were able to develop. Keep that going, make sure not to lose it. And as you move forward, try to work internally, identify opportunities there, as well as look beyond. Identify what are the skills you still need in order to get to where you want to be, and realize that it may not happen overnight. It may not happen even for a few years' time, but at some point it will happen. And those of you in this room that are persistent in the pursuit of your dream, that realize that I have a vision and I know that I'm going to get there, and with the help of my friends and my family and my coworkers, and really with my inner drive, I will succeed. But recognizing as well that every day that you pursue your dream, every day that you're a better person as a result of it, every day that you make a better contribution in the workplace, you're also a leader, and you're also making a difference. So while the vision may be out there, you're enjoying the benefits of the program today and tomorrow and the next day. And hopefully all of us will continue to grow as people and as leaders. And again, thank you all for inviting me to be here with you today, and I wish you all much continued success.
I want to thank Naftali Hoff for the great talk. And you know, many times after you hear a great talk, the person gets up and wants to do a recap. The only way I can do a recap is to say every word he said, because it was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it.